Good day, everyone. In this video, we will be dissecting the three sociological theories and its implications to educations. Now, the three theories, guys, are the following: no? Structural functionalist theory, symbolic interactionist theory, and conflict theory. Again, these are the theories in sociology in which later on we will be interweaving the concepts and context of this theory to the education field. We'll start with structural functionalist theory, guys. This is actually coined by a sociologist named Herbert Spencer, a proponent of structural functionalist views in a society. He actually advocated that um, society is a system of interconnected parts, each with a unique function, and the parts have to collaborate, work together to attain stability and balance of the society. We can compare or we can have the analogy of our body in this particular context of structural functionalist theory, wherein if the mouth would not do its function of chewing the food, it shall not only be the mouth affected, but the entire body parts and its vital organs. In under the same vein, according to Spencer, the members of the society have also to do the respective functions. Otherwise, stability and the equilibrium can never be attained. So for the purposes of schooling, guys, functionalist theory postulates that for intellectual purposes, the school has to give and mold the students cognitive skills and inquiry skills. Again, under intellectual purposes and under the same context of functionalist theory, the schools should develop and mold the students' cognitive skills and inquiry skills. For political purposes, functionalist theory connotes that the citizens have to be inculcated with patriotism, and if and when there are immigrants coming from, of course, other countries, they have to be accommodated in the society. Peace and order has to be maintained, and all the people are expected to adhere, abide, and be in conformity with the existing laws. For economic purposes, guys, functionalist theory um, mandates that the students are being prepared for their respective jobs someday. That's why during students' years, they are being trained, they are being holistically developed, because later on, after finishing the necessary level of education, and even in finishing a degree, expectedly they shall be working, they shall be earning an income. It could be in the form of having a job or uh, administering their respective businesses. Now, for social purposes, functionalists believe that promoting sense of social and moral responsibility, it serves as a site for the solution or resolution of social problems, supplement the efforts of other institutions of socialization such as the family and the church. If you can still recall, family and church are two of the five agents of socialization, namely family, church, mass media, schools, and your peers. Okay? Now, in terms of religion, guys, functionalist people view religion as a form of mechanism for promoting social cohesion and order. Religion provides individuals with a sense of meaning and purpose, right? And and religion helps to reinforce social norms and values. And additionally, religion provides a sense of community and social support to its members. Though in some particular way, religion could be a source of division, but under the context of functionalist theory, again, it views religion as a mechanism to promote social cohesion. Now, let us proceed to the government. How do functionalist people view the government? The government, in accordance with the functionalist views, guys, the government is necessary for maintaining social order and stability. Government institutions, all the agencies provide essential services such as the law enforcement, our judicial system, the executive branch, the legislative branch of the government also. So all these agencies of the government play crucial role in regulating the economy, and they ensure that society functions efficiently. Okay? So ultimately, when you will be confronted with functionalist theory, you should always think that it again it again advocates that all members of the society have to work hand in hand, moving the same direction, thrusting towards the same goal, which is nation building, uplifting the economy. Because if a certain country has has good gross domestic product and gross domestic income, these factors are actually telling us that the government can provide better services, because the GDP and GNP, gross domestic product and gross domestic income, in layman's term, that is the income of the country. So kung dakog income ang country, mas daghan pod nga services and quality of services ang mahatag sa maong government. Okay? Now, we'll proceed to next, which is conflict theory. Conflict theory, guys, it has two opposite sides. Okay? Because it's a form of um, adversary. Okay? Adversarial by nature. Now, according to this theory, guys, as developed by Karl Marx, that in a society, there is always a chaos, a conflict between maintaining the status quo or introducing the changes that arrive on a particular moment. Because whether we like it or not, changes are the permanent things in this world. Nobody can evade changes. Changes are here to stay forever. Okay? There's even a cliche that goes, um, species that will survive are not the strongest, are not the richest. Instead, species who are adaptive to changes are the ones surviving under the context of survival of the fittest. Now, conflict theory welcomes conflict, for that is the way to establishment of the new society. Meaning, conflict wherever you will go, in whatever environment you will be immersing yourselves in, conflict would always arise. Okay? Now, according to the proponents of conflict theory, it regards education as education is not truly a social benefit or opportunity as seen by the functionalist. Rather, education is a powerful means of maintaining power structures and creating docile workforce for capitalism. What does the word docile mean? Docile means um, obedient workforce. Okay, a kind of employees who shall always be submitting themselves to whatever the capitalist dictate. Okay? So, and the purpose of education is to maintain the social inequality, to preserve the power of those who dominate in the society, and teach those in the working class to accept their position as a lower class worker of the society. Conflict theories call this thing as the hidden curriculum. Now, again, this context right here may be sounding so leftist, but what we are trying to dissect right here, guys, we have to acknowledge that this conflict theory has been universally, academically accepted as a potential and possible phenomenon that could possibly happen in the society, whether the people like this theory or not. When this theory is applied to family, for example, I mean, to class conflict, okay? In a society, guys, there is what we call as stratification or categorization. There is this class A, those who are elite, those who are rich. This class B, those who are having better income, having power in the government, like the politicians. We have this class C, who are called as uh, kaning si tawagan niya ingon tag mga middle class. Okay, the members of middle class are called as the or are tag as the middle stratum. Sila ang nasa tunga-tunga. So below the middle class, guys, there is this another there are this another classes, no? So for instance, in right beneath the middle class, we have the lower middle class and the lowest middle class, and the rest at the bottom would be the poor and the poorest of the poor. Okay? So these are what we call as the stratification of the society. Now, based on this theory, guys, it argues that, yeah, society has that kind of stratification. For example, the working class may be exploited by the capitalists, right? If you can still notice right now, if you can really have this keen observation, a lot of workers are being paid not incommensurate with the functions that they do in a particular company. Okay? So, that could be a form of source of conflict. Because these people, these employees, somehow would try to contest their right to good, decent salary. So, therein, the conflict arises. Now, in terms of race and ethnicity, when we apply this conflict theory, guys, um, it it explains that racial and ethnic groups as having different levels of power and resources, which eventually lead to conflict still. For example, in many societies, minority groups may be discriminated against and excluded from opportunities, while dominant groups may have more access to resource and power. Specific example. Let's talk about the indigenous peoples, guys, and the cultural minorities that we have here in our country. We have the Aita, the Manubo, the Bajaos in Cebu City and the rest of the Philippine archipelago. Plenty of members of cultural minorities. It has been debated that these people have experienced marginalization and discrimination because based on studies for how many decades and centuries have passed, the cultural minorities are still the same of who they were, right? The technological advancement somehow does not impose significant changes to these cultural minority societies. So it is construed that these cultural minorities are deprived of the equal opportunity because what has been so dominant are the members of other um kanang gitawag na to dominant groups. Okay? So in short, there is what we call as inferior members and superior members. The inferior ones are the cultural minorities and the superior ones are those people who belong in the elite and outside the cultural minorities spectrum. Okay? Now, conflict theory as applied to gender equality, guys. Conflict theories argue that gender inequality is a result of power struggles between men and women. Men have arguably more access to power and resources, while women are having less opportunities to job avenues, to equal treatment in terms of um, the societals, the societies ingon tag mga dapat mahatag sa ila, no? For example, if ang usa ka if ang usa ka lalaki has committed an extramarital affair somehow, right? Somehow people tend to just um view that thing as common, right? But when a woman commits an extramarital affair, the woman is highly condemned, not the same extent of condemnation as as um as given to men. So somehow this is one of the so-called gender inequality. That is why in the 21st century, guys, gender sensitivity principles are being injected to government policies. All offices in the government right now are highly encouraged to really practice gender equality, gender equality policies, gender equality um, tr- uh, gender impartiality. Okay? Not just to men and women, but the rest of the members of non-binary category. When I say non-binary, I'm referring to the members of LGBTQ. Okay? So, in short, regardless of gender, guys, they have to be given equal opportunity and equal treatment. Otherwise, conflict starts to happen. If we also apply conflict perspective to political political spectrum, guys, conflict theories argue that political power is not evenly distributed in society, leading to conflicts between those in power and those who are not. For example, political elites may not use, may use their power to maintain their position and control resources, while ordinary citizens may seek to challenge their authority and demand greater political representation. Actually, there is a branch of the government called as the Congress. Congress is divided into lower house and the upper house. In the lower house, it's what we call as or it is composed of congressmen and congresswomen, generically known as representatives. Okay? They are called as representatives because they represent the district where they are elected. They are voted by the constituents, and they shall be representing the concerns of the district they represent right there in the lower house, so that whatsoever the concerns could be deliberated and appropriate laws would be enacted to address those gaps, issues, concerns, or whatsoever. And that is what we call representation. That's why, principally, there is a representation. There is this house in Congress crafted to really represent the entire society across the Philippine archipelago. Okay? Because if there is none, most likely, conflict every now and then happens, and the issues, the existing concerns, or even the century old concerns could not really be solved because their voices are not being heard. Okay? Now, the last sociological theory, guys, that we talk about in this video is called as symbolic interactionist theory. How is this theory different from the two? Okay. Basically, symbolic interactionist theory has the following three tenets. Number one, an individual's action depends on meaning. Number two, different people may give different meaning to the same thing. Number three, meanings can change as individuals interact with one another. Yes. For example, if we apply this theory to language, symbolic interactionist view language as a key element in shaping social reality. Words and language are used to create and maintain shared meanings, which means that in whatsoever society that we belong, what the cultural characteristics, the practices of the people are best understood by the people who are in that society. If you happen to be in a different society and you immerse yourselves into that society, you tend to judge that society based on your own cultural and societal standards. There is what we call as sociological gap. For instance, I don't know if you have been there in Olango Island, but there is this particular barangay in Olango Island there in Lapu-Lapu City, Cebu, that they practice this festival called as Baliw-Baliw Festival. I guess it is celebrated every May, okay? Every month of May of every year. Now, during the festival, the Baliw-Baliw Festival, people they tend to throw feces, yes, feces kanang human waste. They tend to catch the animals using the fishing net, and above all, they tend to parade a replica of male reproductive organ. So if you do not belong, or if you are not a resident of that particular barangay, you would somehow say that what happens to those people? These practices are so primitive and uncivilized because you judge the cultural practices based on your own societal and cultural lenses, which must not be. Okay? But again and again, that particular phenomenon falls under the symbolic interactionist theory, wherein an individual's action depends on meaning, or a particular person may have placed different meaning to whatsoever practices that he or she has seen on a society where he or she does not belong. Because meanings change as individuals interact with one another. Now, symbolic interactionist theory as applied to self-concept, for example, it argues that individuals develop their sense of self through interaction with others. People use symbols and language to define themselves and understand their place in the society. For instance, students, if you happen to visit Paris, France, and you would see two males, duha ka lalaki, would kiss their respective cheeks, you as someone who hail from the Philippines would misinterpret that either of them is a gay, right? However, that kind of societal practice is normal in Paris, France. It's okay for the males to kiss the cheeks of their male friends. But right here in the society that we have in the Philippines, it's kinda culturally, you know, inappropriate if you are a guy and you would kiss another guy on the cheek. You could be called as a gay. But again and again, in the 21st century, discriminations, marginalizations, and stereotyping, guys, are being slowly eliminated. But again, there are still societies who do not truly grasp the meaning of this context under the symbolic interactionist theory. Another example, if you are a woman and you are about to walk down the aisle with the man of your dream, when you buy the wedding ring, the woman perhaps thinks that wedding ring is a symbol of lifetime commitment or reclusion perpetua. Something like the wedding ring right there binds both of you. The wedding ring is a reminder that you have to love your partner for the rest of your life. That you shall be there for your partner until your partner will have his or her last breath on earth. But we do not exactly know what that partner of ours thinks of the wedding ring that we have. Because we could have interpreted differently, totally different from the interpretation of, of our partner. Because under symbolic interactions theory, that phenomenon has been happening in the society, guys. Okay? Now, let's talk about the application of symbolic interactionist theory to teaching. In the education field, guys, symbolic interactionist theory is seen to have the concepts of promoting and creating opportunities for genuine interaction among our students, teachers, between students and teachers. Okay? Let us use positive symbols in the form of gestures, words, actions, and appearances to express our trust, belief in our students' abilities, and affirmation of their being. That is why, if you will become teachers and educators like us, please always be reminded that whatsoever the immediate perception or interpretation of the students upon doing a certain response, that could be interpreted that way by our students. If you were, for example, um, glazedly staring at your student because of a certain mistake, the students might interpret that you are what? You are upset, right? That you are not happy with what the student does. That somehow you wanna force your students to again never do that again. But again, when you stare gruely to the students, guys, under the child protection policy of Department of Education, that is already tantamount to child abuse. More so if you would pinch or if you would employ um, the so-called uh, I forgot really the term, no? The so-called corporal punishment, like imo silang pa imo silang i-sit on the air, or you would administer any form of direct or indirect punishment. That is a total violation of the DepEd child protection policy, and even to some republic acts intended to protect the children. Okay? So, let us be sensitive with our gestures, with our words, with our actions, because our students can construe a meaning on that. Perhaps we do not intend to let the students feel that way, but since that is their immediate interpretation, we could not help but have to endure and embrace the consequences, though we have the right to be heard. But still, it's a tedious, lengthy process if a certain case is filed against us due to a certain misconception and unawareness of of our students, insensitivity of our students' feelings, and the way they interpret the respective undertakings that we have inside the classroom. Okay? So conversation is an interaction of symbols between individuals who constantly interpret the world around them. To ensure mutual understanding, guys, the sender of the symbol and the receiver of the symbol must give the same meaning to the symbol. Or otherwise, there is a great risk of misunderstanding, okay? Misunderstanding that could result to conflict, okay? According to Max Weber's views, symbolic interactionist theory has some weaknesses, like it neglects the macro level of social interpretation. Why it neglects? Now, it neglects because it focuses on the two or more individuals' reaction on a societal level. Okay? Meaning, it is a case-to-case, it is a case-to-case societal base, or basis rather, in this particular theory. So the macro level is compromised because we see the respective societal scenarios. Okay? Again, it misses the larger issues of society because we restrict themselves to only small or individual interactions. Kay mao may atong gi-analyze under the symbolic interactionist theory. Unlike in the conflict theory, wherein it has the one ingon tag macro level. Kay whatsoever the society experiences, or called as the societal issues, guys, these issues might be representing other society's issues as well. So it aggregates and it becomes a macro level. Furthermore, Max Weber's assertion that individuals act according to their interpretation of the meaning of the world. Okay? Because that has been the observation of the sociologist Max Weber. But this kind of philosophy, guys, this kind of theory has been formally introduced to American sociology way back in 1920s, and it was done by another popular, an icon in sociology named George Mead. Okay, wrapping up, again we have the three sociological theories. First is the functionalist theory, wherein the individuals have to collaborate with one another, otherwise they could not achieve whatsoever the goals that they have. Second, conflict theory, wherein it has the view that wherever we go, there is always a conflict. Because of, social stratification, because of our own respective differences. Okay? So in symbolic interactionist theory, guys, it connotes that everyone has our own respective interpretations, and our interpretations are influenced by the society where we have been growing up, influenced by the upbringing that our parents have provided to us. But what matters most in symbolic interactionist theory, regardless of our um, differences in perceptions, we have to respect the diversity. We have to celebrate instead our uniqueness. We have to be reminded that no society or all societies have its own unique, peculiar, cultural, sociological characteristics. What we can only do is not to judge them, but again, respect the kind of characteristics that their society have. Okay? And just like, for instance, I recall this short story, guys, though, that there is these two women right there in the beach. The other one is a Muslim and the other one is a Christian. The Muslim, her body is covered, only eyes that could be seen, while the Christian, she is wearing the two-piece bikini. The Christian says that, oh, what happens to this woman, to that Muslim? Oh, she is referring to the Muslim. What happens to this woman? She is in the beach and yet her entire body is covered. Now, the Muslim woman also replies that, what happens to this woman? All of her um, body parts are almost exposed. So, basically, they judge each other's sociological and cultural practices, norms, and standards from the society they both belong. Now, if you would ask me who is at fault between the two, both of them are at fault because of their judgment, which is stem from the respective views which are being influenced from the society where they belong. And guys, that concludes our lesson in this particular chapter, chapter 3, the three sociological theories and its implication to education. See you next meeting. Goodbye, everyone.